So I recently took a little trip down memory lane to where my desire to get into boating really kind of took root. So I'll bring you along and show you that. But before we do, I want to show you another spot that really fascinates me now that I'm up in the Pacific Northwest. And that is this area here. This is not a river. This is a boat going through Deception Pass when the tide is flooding through there. So let's jump in and look a little further at Deception Pass, and then we'll take a stroll through some of my history in Utah. All right, through the magic of Google Earth, we can kind of visualize where the boat is down here in Puget Sound. And in order to get from here up to the San Juan Islands, I've really got two routes I can take, but the one that I prefer is the one that kind of is not the commercial route. It's the route up past Edmonds and around to the right of the bottom of Whidbey Island here, which takes me up between Whidbey Island and Camano Island. And once we get all the way up there, we could veer right again and go out through the Swinomish Canal at La Conner, but instead I like to go through Deception Pass when I can. All right, I say when I can, which would make you believe I've done it more than once, but I haven't. I've only done it once so far. But I think when you see why I've been cautious about it, maybe you'll understand why this is one of those things that I didn't want to just dive into without kind of making sure I did it the right way. Depending on the time of day that you approach this place from the land or the highway coming in here, you know, it can look fairly intimidating even from a distance. And when you look straight across, you kind of get that view of the water rushing past you. Now, again, it's not always like this. The tide floods in and then goes slack and then floods back out. But you can see I kind of zoomed in here and sped this up just a little bit to give you a sense of how much water is actually moving through here and the rate that it's traveling. And it's not just that it's traveling straight through. On the sides, it kind of boils around, and some of it has to change directions to go back over to the other little narrow pass on the left. So it gets a little wild here. Now, again, these boats that are faster boats, they don't really worry about it too much. They just come cruising in up on plane, blasting along, you know, 2 or 3 times the speed of what the current is going. And they can kind of go right straight through there, but us folks that are cruising along in our slow old trawlers have to take a little different approach and wait for this to calm down. But it does calm right down when there's slack water. So even the little narrow channel here just looks like a river running through it when you look up close. Now, I did film myself going through here. I didn't get great footage because I was doing a time-lapse shot with the camera, so next time through I'll record this differently. So apologize for the poor quality of this chunk right here. All right, well, I've been working on the house nonstop, and I thought it was time to take a short break. So what I've done is I have brought you up to Flaming Gorge Reservoir. I think the reason I'm here is because I mentioned this in a previous video. I talked about the Red Canyon Overlook and how I used to go up there before I ever had a boat and look down on this reservoir and say, that'll be me someday. So we're not at the Red Canyon Overlook right now. We are at the overlook overlooking the dam area. And there's a bridge over here, an arch bridge I'll show you. And then off in the distance a little bit is this Cedar Springs Marina. Now that's where I kept the boat when I kept my boat up here. I actually started keeping the Chaparral here before I got rid of it for a few years, and then pretty much the whole time I had that Sea Ray, I kept it here. So this is the spot. Let's get out and have a look at it, should we? So my best friend Randy and I used to come up here before I had a boat, and we'd go out on this rock and we'd fish in about 400 feet of water right there. This is also the scene of a brutal attack by a crawdad, but that's a story for another time. So this is Cedar Springs Marina, and I'll show you the boat that I kept here. I kept this here for several years. When winter hits up here, all the boats look like this, all shrink wrapped and put away. These don't look like they even made it out from under the shrink wrap this year. So this is Red Canyon, the Red Canyon overlook here, and this is the spot where I used to come up here in the summer, and I'd look down on the water down here and go, those boats down there, one of these days that'll be me. When I did finally get my boat, right coming around that corner that boat just went, I stopped right there and kind of had a moment, because you could see this overlook. There's a visitor center. You could see it from the water down there. So I knew I had reached my goal of having my own boat and being up here on Flaming Gorge. Now, quite unlike Deception Pass, because this is a reservoir, there's no currents or tides or anything here, and for the most part, unless the wind's really blowing, these channels are always just calm and flat as can be. This part of the reservoir is to the north. It's called Sheep Creek, and you can see the highway here. Well, you can see a little bit of it. It's a great road. It winds all around the mountain and goes up and down. It's very nice for up drive. When I'm coming back from Flaming Gorge to Salt Lake, one of the routes that I can take is on Highway 50 here. It's really the only highway that goes up and over the Uintahs. And currently on the north side of the Uintahs, there's a pretty big fire burning up there. And I drove past where the fire operation guys were operating their helipad here, and just stopped to watch this guy getting ready to carry some supplies back up to the fire line up here. Now, once he got going, I was just pulled off to the side of the road about, eighth of a mile past where they were loading up there. And I started thinking as he got ready to fly right over my head pretty much here that maybe I didn't pick such a good spot, but it all worked out okay. But yeah, it's a pretty big fire burning up there, and there's a lot of dead trees. The drought has really killed a lot of the forest up there, so when the fires get going up in here, it's really hard to get them stopped. But I guess that you could be arguing that it's probably the best thing for the forest is to burn off all this old diseased dead timber and get rid of it. So anyway, just thought that was kind of cool. This guy hauling supplies in by way of helicopter up to the fire line. Well, thanks for indulging me as I took this little stroll down memory lane. Flaming Gorge is a special place to me, and Deception Pass is kind of turning out to be the same. I'm sure as I see more and more of the Pacific Northwest, there will be other places to add to the list. But so far, I really like it up there, and if you ever get a chance, you're up in the Washington State area, make sure you make it a point to go visit Deception Pass.